You are at home, alone. Dinner cooling on the table, the television on in the background, and suddenly, a strange pain in your chest. It's not just any pain, it's a pressure, as if someone had placed a brick on top of your heart and was slowly squeezing. Cold sweat appears on your forehead even before you understand what is happening. And the most terrifying thought of your life crosses your mind in a second. Most people, at this exact moment, do the most dangerous thing possible. They wait. Wait to get better. Wait for it to pass. Wait for it to be something else. And while they wait, the heart keeps losing cells that will never come back. Because unlike almost everything else in the body, heart cells do not regenerate. When they die forever. And every minute of hesitation has a permanent cost that no doctor in the world can reverse later. The problem is not a lack of courage. It's not a lack of care. The problem is that no one ever taught you what to do in those first critical minutes before help arrives. In medical schools, this is learned. In emergency rooms, this is practiced. But for the average person over 60 years old, alone on a Sunday afternoon, this knowledge simply never arrived. And this, let's face it, is an absurdity that costs lives every day. Today, that changes. In this video, you will learn 3 real techniques studied and applied by cardiologists in emergency situations, which anyone can perform alone, in pain, in fear, and in total panic. Techniques simple enough to be done without equipment, without help, and without medical training, but powerful enough to buy the precious minutes your heart needs until help arrives. Stay until the end, because what you learn here might be exactly what keeps you alive on a day you aren't expecting. Tell me here in the comments right now, if you felt the symptoms of a heart attack today, home alone, would you know what to do? Write yes or no below, because the answer will tell me how much this information has still not reached those who need it most. And before any technique, you need to understand what actually happens inside your body when a heart attack begins. Because it is this understanding that will make you take what follows much more seriously than any medical advice you have ever received. Imagine a heart artery as a road where blood needs to pass through without stopping. Over time, this road accumulates fat on the walls, until a clot suddenly blocks everything. When this happens, blood stops reaching the heart muscle, and the heart begins to suffer immediately. The most terrifying detail is that heart cells do not recover like others in the body. If they die during the heart attack, they die permanently. What is left is a scar, and that scar does not pump blood. That is why every minute counts so much. The problem is that a heart attack doesn't always arrive with the drama people imagine. Often it starts as a pressure in the chest, a strange weight, a burning sensation, or a tightness that won't go away. This pain can travel to the arm, jaw, back, or neck, and then many people mistake it for tiredness, gas, or muscle pain. In people over 60, especially in women, the symptoms can be even more silent. Sometimes it appears only as an absurd fatigue, shortness of breath, dizziness, or a feeling that something is wrong without being able to explain it. And it is exactly this doubt that makes many people wait too long, when the best time to act is at the first sign. If a person feels 2 or more of these symptoms at the same time, the correct thing is to treat it as an emergency without waiting for it to pass. Because in a heart attack, waiting is not prudence, it is risk. And that is exactly why understanding these signs completely changes what comes next. This is the technique that causes the most distrust at first glance, precisely because it seems too simple for someone to take seriously. Many people imagine that in a cardiac emergency, the solution needs to be something complex, almost cinematic. But the truth is that some of the most useful maneuvers are also the most discreet. The forced cough fits exactly there. It doesn't cure the heart attack, it doesn't replace help, it doesn't undo the blockage, but it can help keep the body functioning for a few valuable moments while help is on the way. The mechanism is smarter than it seems. When a person takes a deep breath and coughs vigorously, they increase the pressure inside the chest, and this can help propel the blood for a short period, sustaining circulation and preventing the situation from worsening so quickly. It's not magic, it's not a miracle, and it's not internet hyperbole. It is a mechanical response of the body that in certain contexts can buy enough time for the person to remain conscious and respond better until medical care arrives. The most important point is to understand that this technique needs to be done with intention and rhythm. It is not enough to cough in any way as if you were just trying to clear your throat. The cough needs to come from deep within, strong, dry, firm, after a deep inspiration, as if the person were trying to expel something stuck in the chest. And precisely because it seems simple, many people make the mistake of putting in too little effort, when in fact what makes a difference is the correct force and the right repetition. In a moment of panic, the body tends to become disorganized. Breathing shortens, fear accelerates everything, and the person loses clarity on what they are doing. That is why mentally practicing this technique before an emergency is so important. Those who have never heard of it tend to freeze or laugh nervously when they see the name. But those who understand the value of gaining minutes know that in emergency medicine, time is heart muscle that can still be saved. This is the logic that needs to stay in your head. The forced cough is not the final solution. It is the bridge between the start of the crisis and professional help. And in a situation where every second carries weight, having a bridge already completely changes the scenario. That is why this technique needs to come out of oblivion and into the memory of those who might need it one day. This is the technique that attracts the most attention because it seems too counterintuitive to be true. At a time when a person is experiencing chest pain, the idea of applying a controlled impact to the center of the chest sounds strange, almost aggressive. But the logic behind it comes from the attempt to correct a disorganized heart rhythm through a quick mechanical stimulus. It is not meant to be hitting without criteria. It is a specific maneuver designed for a very limited and very urgent scenario. The heart is not just a mechanical pump. It also functions as an electrical system. When this system collapses and the rhythm becomes chaotic, the heart stops pumping blood efficiently and the body enters a race against time. The precordial thump attempts exactly to provoke an immediate response in this system, offering a localized stimulus in the center of the chest that in some cases can help restore the rhythm for valuable moments. But there is a point that needs to be very clear. This technique is not for improvisation, nor for uncontrolled hitting, nor for someone to do on impulse as if they were settling a fight. The center of the chest is the correct area, and the force needs to be firm, fast, and precise, because the goal is not to hurt, but to try to generate a cardiac response in a very specific emergency. When done out of context, it loses meaning and can even bring unnecessary risk. What makes this maneuver so important in the video is precisely the shock it causes. Most people have never heard of it, and this is dangerous because hidden knowledge becomes useless knowledge. In an emergency scenario, knowing that a technique like this exists changes the way a person views their own body, their own time, and their own chance of survival until medical care arrives. And perhaps that is the big lesson here. It is not about aggressiveness, it is about immediate intervention in seconds that are worth gold. When the heart fails, hesitation costs dearly. When a person knows what they are doing, even an apparently simple action can become a bridge between collapse and the arrival of help. This is the technique that seems most unlikely at first glance, but it is also one of the ones that grabs the most attention because it deals with a detail that almost no one imagines exists. Between the thumb and the index finger, there is a pressure point that, when stimulated the right way, can help the body respond better in a moment of extreme stress. It seems too simple, I know, but precisely because of that, many people underestimate the power of a small action taken at the right instant. The reasoning here is less about brute force and more about control. The person presses the area firmly, seeking a response from the body that helps reduce the feeling of internal chaos. In a cardiac emergency, the problem is not just the suffering heart. It is also the panic, the disorganized breathing, and the feeling of total loss of control. This point functions as a way to bring the body back to some level of stability. The most interesting thing is that this technique can be done without equipment, without help, and with your own hands, which makes it useful precisely when a person is alone. Instead of depending on something external, they use a resource that is literally within the body's reach all the time. And that changes everything, because in a critical situation, practical simplicity is worth more than any explanation that is too pretty to work. Of course, this does not mean miracles or exaggerated promises. The goal is not to pretend the crisis has ceased to exist, but to offer the body a better chance of getting through those initial minutes with less disorganization. In emergencies, the detail matters. Sometimes what seems small is exactly what prevents the situation from worsening too fast. And that is why this technique needs to be taught clearly, without mysticism and without stalling. When a person understands what to do with their own hand, they stop being just a victim in panic and start to have a concrete action. In a moment when time is short and fear is high, this makes all the difference. In the middle of a heart attack, a person doesn't need beautiful theory, they need order. The big problem is that fear scrambles everything. Breathing shortens, thoughts accelerate, and every second feels bigger than it actually is. That is why having a simple protocol changes the outcome so much, because a brain in panic needs sequence, not improvisation. First call for help, then stop the body, then execute the maneuvers that can still buy time. The first action is to call for help immediately, before anything else. There is no technique that replaces definitive medical care. And the sooner the ambulance is called, the higher the chances of the person arriving alive and with less damage. Next, the body needs to stop wasting energy for nothing. So sitting or lying down safely becomes becomes a priority. The most common mistake is trying to walk through the house, open doors, look for things, or see if it gets better, when in fact, every extra effort can worsen the heart's suffering. After that, the techniques that have already been explained come in. The forced cough can be used to try to sustain circulation for moments. The precordial thump can be used in very specific situations, and the EGU point can help bring more control to a body overcome by stress. The important thing is to understand that they are not competitors with each other, but emergency resources that serve to cross the most critical window until professional help takes over. Another essential point is not to be fooled by your own momentary improvement. In many cases, the person feels a small truce and thinks the danger is past. This is one of the most dangerous mistakes because the heart can be in distress even when the pain fluctuates. In a cardiac emergency, a feeling of relief does not mean safety. It only means the body is still fighting. Therefore, the protocol must be remembered as a simple and direct script. Recognize the signs, call for help, stop the effort, apply what is possible, and wait for the medical team. In a moment like this, what saves lives is not courage floating in the air. It is a well-learned sequence. And when a person already knows what to do, they stop acting in shock and start responding with some direction, even when surrounded by fear. Look, I know you are here seeking information that can save lives, and it makes me proud to be able to help. But I need to be very clear. These techniques are to give you a basic notion of what can be done while help does not arrive. If you feel chest pain, cold sweat, shortness of breath, or any strange sign, pick up the phone and call for help right now. That is more important than any maneuver. There are people who may have physical limitations or specific conditions that make some of these actions risky, such as those who have osteoporosis or have already gone through serious heart problems. So my heartfelt advice is talk to your doctor about this beforehand to know what makes sense for your case. I don't want anyone applying this without knowing if it is safe. In the end, this here is to empower you with knowledge, not to turn you into a doctor. The most important thing is always to prioritize the professionals when the reality hits. Rest assured that good information is never too much, but safety always comes first, okay? You've made it this far, and that is already a victory. It means you cared enough about your life and the lives of those you love to absorb every word of this video. What we covered isn't distant theory. They are real tools for a moment that can arrive without warning, when you are alone and fear tries to take over everything. You now have in your head what to do, and that already completely changes your future. Think carefully about what this represents. Each technique you learn today is a seed planted to protect your heart in the years that are still ahead. It's not about being afraid of tomorrow. It's about being prepared to live it fully, with health and peace of mind. You deserve this security, and the people around you also deserve to know all of this. Sharing this knowledge is an act of deep care. Now it's up to you. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates that can make a difference in your life. Leave a like to show that this content reached the right place and help the algorithm take this message to those who need it most. And in the comments, tell me, which of the 3 techniques will you practice first today? Your answer will inspire others to do the same. Thank you for trusting me to deliver this important information to you. You made the right choice by watching until the end. Your heart thanks you, and I thank you for allowing me to help you. We'll see each other in the next video. Take good care of yourself until then. Here is one last reflection for you to take into your daily life. Knowledge not kept is opportunity lost. Practice these techniques. Teach your children, your grandchildren, your friends. Transform what you learned here into protection for everyone you love. You are now part of those who know, those who act, those who overcome fear with preparation. That is real power.